I am all over the place looking for some film on one Derrick Coleman as we move to something you just taught me and gave me some intel on before we started to record here. It's the Sevens. It's a new camp in Georgia, 7-on-7. So you get to see those elite playmakers on the outside be able to match up against DBs and secondary players. And that's always exciting to see the guys in space um, get some work in. So, again, this is a new camp to 2025. Is this the first time they've ever?
Yeah, this is a new debut seven on seven program. We talked a lot. We've talked a lot about. You'll hear us about Battle, Pylon. Those are like your national companies, but this is, despite it being a regional one, it was this past weekend debuted. Cam Newton, Ed Reed, all the big time 7-on-7 programs, especially those based near in Georgia and surrounding areas. We had some kids out from Texas with their national 7-on-7 teams definitely flocking to Georgia. So Georgia was definitely on the mind of many, many programs. Obviously, we know during the dead period that coaches and recruiting staff cannot be on site and make contact, but there was plenty of film. There was definitely a lot of talking and messaging after some of watching these films. But again, the sevens this past weekend really showed out. It was all about the signal callers. I feel like the last couple weeks it's been all about the quarterbacks, and the sevens debut this weekend was no different. Dereon Coleman, four-star quarterback. He's a Miami commit. Um, we always talk about, I always try to use a different word than what we always use. His velocity every time you see him just continues. So I'm just going to say his celerity. Um, his celerity on his arm just continues to impress me every time I see him. This is a kid who's just got that internal radar. He likes to pick apart defenses. He's really extremely good at functioning in the pocket. He can flick the ball. He's really good at, commanding the field when it comes to the deep ball, and he does it with such ease. And he had a really strong showing out this weekend. So he's definitely going to be a 2026 quarterback that we haven't been talking a lot about. But I speculate after this weekend and kind of seeing his film, you see that velocity. And like I said, when you put on the sound in that and you can hear the hit, we talk about when you're hearing linemen on that line of scrimmage, how they hit and how you hear it. You can tell a lot about it. I always like to go when I get to be in person and see these kids. I like to see, obviously their mechanics on their arm, but I like to hear when they're throwing that bar. And he's just got a lot of big force. And again, committed to Miami, but I believe after this weekend and this debut, just how accurate he was and just the velocity he has, or the celerity that he has on this arm every time he's thrown, and just that internal radar, that I believe that a lot of schools will continue, that are looking for that mid-level quarterback with a lot of upside, but really hasn't been a loud voice on the scene. Again, he comes out of Jones there in Orlando. He's one of the top QBs in the country. I think if you're looking to build on a 2026 class, as far as Dereon Coleman, definitely his stock definitely rose this weekend at the debut of the sevens in Georgia.
2026 is obviously where most of the attention goes because National Signing Day, let's see, is just about 6 months away. This being March, we head to December, and then 2027 is certainly on your radar. And the people that are deep into the recruiting game, looking at the 2027 prospects. And again, a lot of big time quarterbacks are there as well.
And with the quarterback position, I feel like, especially with the high school guys, I constantly say they always have to put themselves out there. They always have to show themselves in the live reps. And I feel like at the quarterback position, even though 2027 seems so far ahead, the quarterback position is, I feel, one of the most difficult positions as far as to be able to get a deal and know that you're going to stay committed to a school. So I feel like a lot of these guys are constantly out in the circuits, whether it's at a 7-on-7 tournament like the sevens, or, that we had a lot of guys out there out in Orlando at the Under Armour camp, just trying to raise their spot. But one guy that really caught my eye is out of Carmel Catholic, QB Trae Taylor. He just had a really strong weekend overall. The ball just really gets out of his hands quickly, and like I say, not all the deep balls and not all the passers of a quarterback have to be pretty, but there's something you got to love about a quarterback when they do a deep ball, or when they just have a spin that just looks like a work of art, looks like a symphony, and he really is that kid that I saw in 2027 from this weekend that really just had a beautiful deep throw. And I think that he has a lot of potential. He's a taller frame quarterback, roughly at 6'3", about 186 pounds. I would say, watching his film, he's probably a little bit more than 186. So I think he's got a lot of strength on him. The way he moves, he's got great footwork. He reads the field, scans the feel really well. And even though he's a 2026, again, when and it looks like Trae Taylor is looking to narrow things down. What we're hearing that he's looking to make a tentative commitment later in June. So that's definitely going to be one to watch. TJ will be happy about this one. It looks like his top school is Michigan, followed by Nebraska, Illinois, LSU, and Texas A&M. So again, it's going to be interesting to see where Trae Taylor does land. But again, a big weekend for him, and probably one of the prettiest throw deep balls and passing quarterbacks, aside from his strong football IQ and footwork. But again, another strong weekend from 2027. Carmel Catholic QB looking to make his decision here, not so in the dear distant future.
You are familiar with players all over the country, specifically in the South, but very strong in Georgia as well. We go to Milton and another prospect at the quarterback spot.
Milton is a place that you guys have heard me talk a lot about. Ben Reeves and his staff have done a wonderful job as far as making a strong dynasty and tradition. I spent a lot of time out there this past season, and we know that Milton is one of those places that's not only known for churning out top players, but high level quarterbacks. We saw the development of Miami signee Luke Nickel and what he was able to do in back-to-back season wins, bringing those state titles to Milton. And so a one to watch is another guy that I saw this weekend at the sevens. Out of Milton is 2027 quarterback Derrick Baker. He's a name that you want to get to know. Like I say, if you're not recruiting out at Milton, or the Empire, as it's signaturely known on the circuit is a nickname, then you should be. This is a kid that I tell you, he's going to do big things. And he showed it this weekend. Like I said, Georgia native. He's at roughly 6'2", 220 pounds. So again, he's one of those quarterbacks that I like to say, he has such a physical frame. So he's not only going to have a power on his arm, he's very mobile. He's a guy that's probably not going to be afraid to take a block. He just really commands an offense. He's got a great leadership, extremely athletic, and really got a zip when he puts that ball out there. It's extremely accurate. Some of the schools to watch, Purdue, Ohio State, Auburn, and TCU are some of the guys that have recently offered and the ones to watch. I suspect that Kirby Smart, he spends a lot of time out there on those sidelines recruiting at Milton, because like I say, some of the best young talent that I've seen in the state of Georgia. There's a few schools that I've seen, but Milton is definitely one of those who's really Coach Ben Reeves, like I said, and his staff have done an excellent job really building in a roster with a really, really young level talent. And I believe that quarterback Derrick Baker really had his coming out, as I like to say, this weekend at the 7-on-7. So that definitely is going to be a name to watch this upcoming season in that 2027 class.
And these camps are an opportunity for a lot of guys that have maybe flown under the radar for a time to really get a firsthand look and be able to isolate their skills against some of the other better players and top guys across the country and really show what they can do. So this is a guy that's on the rise right now at wide receiver.
Jordan Clay, again, the Navy All-American Bowl, especially for some of these kids that are under the radar that we've definitely known and heard about, especially here in South Texas and the San Antonio scene. He's out of San Antonio, Madison. Like they say, you never know who you could be sitting next to at one of these events. I had seen Jordan all weekend briefly because he was on the west side, and obviously when I was there at the Navy All-American Bowl, I was covering the East team. But when we sat down for the awards dinner, I happened to sit next to Jordan and his family and had a nice, lovely conversation with him. So you never know who you're going to sit next to, and it's great to see that this kid, he really did catch my eye at the Navy All-American Bowl and the reps that I got to see them when both were practicing. But like I said, it really was a small world. Who would have ever guessed that I would get to sit such a humble guy? He really is one of the offers that I was excited to hear that he's looking to get is Ole Miss. So definitely Ole Miss is one to watch in this one. Again, a very talented wide receiver who's kind of been working under the radar. He's extremely tall. He's got a tall frame. He's got a really big base. When you look at his hands as a wide receiver, extremely big. And his length, like I said, his frame is such a plus. He really he's one of those guys at the wide receiver that really uses his frame to his advantage. He's really competitive. His dexterity is just something to watch. He's very key when it comes to his timing, when he's cutting his routes. It's almost like he has a sixth sense to be able to have that connection when his back is turned, just to know when he has to click. So he's really phenomenal at being able to make some big time playmakers. I know a lot of the national guys, when they look at his tape and have said, when you see him on live reps, that he's maybe not that top gear kind of guy. But I kind of beg to differ. I just think that the kind of skill set he has and just the versatility and his dexterity and the way, and what he brings to the table and just kind of that edge in his competitiveness, I really think that he has big playmaking ability, and he's just going to be a big play kind of guy, because in even tight situations, he knows how to maneuver that. Like I said, despite his tall frame, he's extremely athletic. And like I said, his dexterity is just something to watch. And I think that, Texas is definitely the one to watch in this one. It seems like the school favorite. Obviously, they've been recruiting him hard. A talent not to a couple hours just outside of Austin, obviously, and there in San Antonio. But Jordan Clay, he's definitely on the rise. He showed out this weekend at the sevens, and I think he will continue to build that offer sheet. But again, this is a kid who really works under the radar, extremely humble, and I think that he has a bright future ahead. As far as the phone ringing off the hook, he definitely already has his choices marked of some of the top Power Four programs, but I do believe there's a few offers that he's still waiting on. And like I said, Ole Miss is one of them, but there are a couple ones that I know that he's definitely waiting on that call. So I suspect that some of those wide receiver coaches will be looking on hand at these films and be contacting him soon, because he definitely continues to show what kind of value and unique skill set he uses. And like I said, he has so many measurables as far as his athletic ability that I think that you could put him in some different positions on offensive scheme, and he's going to be a big playmaker. And like I said, he's a big play threat kind of guy.
You are watching On the Move, our recruiting and transfer portal update, live right here at the Voice of College Football with LeeAnn and myself every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time.